So with me today, I have Luis Acevedo from A1A, and he's going to talk to us about AI and he's going to go through our AI Masterclass today, a prompting Masterclass. So excited about the opportunity to kind of go through this with him. He's joined the My Biz Coaches team a few months back, and we're excited about the insights and the information he's going to provide and share with us today. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Luis, and let you go ahead and take over.
So prompt engineering, that's what we're going to be going over today. Some of the fundamentals we'll be covering are right here. So we have the foundation, basically what it is, how you can use it, core prompting techniques, how to really use it. It's way different than Google, right? Like there's a certain skill set that you need in order to Google something to get the right answer. Just like that, there's a certain skill set you need to prompt ChatGPT or any of these other large language models to get the right answer or the right information that you're looking for. And it's definitely a little more complicated than just typing in what is the best email I can send for this specific campaign. And we'll go over that in the advanced prompt engineering portion. And from there, we can open up some Q&A if you guys have any questions. And then we'll talk about the workshop that we have started. So beginning here, the foundations. So basically, like I was saying before, it is similar to Google and how you do your searches, in that how you type your answers are going to determine the quality of your answer or your questions and answers. So what is prompt engineering? Very simply put, prompt engineering is communicating with a large language model. And one thing that I would keep in mind here is that when we are communicating with large language models, they are just working off of purely text and almost nothing else. Like there's a lot of data that we haven't collected for the AI to be trained on. So when you are communicating with it, you are essentially having to consider the fact that it can only really understand text. And the better that you can specify what you are going to be typing in there, it will give you a better answer. So that's where it goes into like the power of specificity in the context in business prompts. So an example I'll give you, let's say you're going to go and start a social media campaign for a particular event. What I would not do is say, I am going to do a social media event for event planning. Give me, 3 things I can say there. While that's okay, it's not ideal. What would be better is to give it a specific role and give it context to what you're doing exactly. So for example, the way that would look would be something like, act like an expert event manager. I want you to help me plan an event I am hosting for a networking party. And there will be these kind of business owners here. Let's say it's, restaurants, hotel owners, etc. So it's going to be a hospitality event. And I want 3 core things that are going to help me bring them together and kind of break the ice for them and can provide some value. And then you can provide some examples as well. Now, I'm not an expert in the restaurant or hospitality space, but you could then find examples in your niche that could apply to that specific prompt. Now, if we go back to how the AI thinks, once again, AI is very smart, but in a lot of ways, we're smarter than the AI in the fact that we can get data from a bunch of other places. And by data, I just mean like information. And when we're talking to these large language models, they're kind of limited on the information they're using. It's only anything that's ever been written. And there's way more information than written information. So we have to consider that when we are talking to these large language models. And the key elements, I've kind of already touched those. These are some of the better descriptions for them. So one place I would start would be like a clear objective. So for example, define what you want, analyze, strategy, content creation, market insight. An example of that would be, give me a competitive analysis of Nike versus Adidas focused on digital marketing. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to give it context. So you want to give it a little bit of background as to what you are really doing. So you would just include relevant business details that are specific to your industry, what you're targeting in your audience. So an example question of that could be something like, we're a SaaS startup targeting mid-size logistics firms in the US. So now you're giving it more specificity, so that way it will be able to give you a better answer. Because the way it works is like this. Once you prompt it to do something, it is going to only pull from certain amount of data. So if you're going to say, like we just did here, we're a SaaS startup targeting mid-size logistic firms, it's only going to work off of a knowledge base related to SaaS startups, or it will very limit it to things that are very specific to SaaS startups and then logistics as well. So that way you're not pulling from everywhere, but it's giving it a specific parameter to work within. Now, the other thing here too would be giving it specific constraints or requirements. So for example, let's say you are writing an email. You don't want the email to be extremely long, but you want ChatGPT to help you out with the response, or Gemini, whatever large language model you want to use. You could add in details in there like, hey, I want an email to respond to this one that's going to be under 200 words. I want it to mimic my voice, and it has to be casual or it has to be professional. Another thing that you can use this for, which is what a lot of like Y Combinator, if you guys are familiar with them, they're a startup accelerator program. They have helped fund over $90 billion companies like Uber, Instagram, DoorDash, etc. And one of the things that they suggest business owners really begin to do to just learn how to use ChatGPT and AI in its totality is to begin by summarizing it. Because if you can at least have it summarize like a long text that you have, it will help you save, maybe 10, 15 minutes a day, which then compounds over time, and it'll get you an introduction as to how to navigate this world. Because just because it gives you something doesn't mean that it's going to be relevant information. It can do what they call hallucinations, which is giving you incorrect information. It's essentially lying to you, right? Now, the other thing that you want to do when you're building out your prompt is you want to give it a desired outcome or action. So you want to clarify what you'll do with the output, presentation, internal memos, blogs, investor deck, etc. So a simple example of that would be, this will be in a pitch deck for investors. So if you were building up something like, hey, I have an idea to pitch to investors, you're going to say, I want you to be an expert VC. With that, the goal is to build me out a pitch deck for investors, and this is what I want inside of it. Now, other ways that you can use this, just even in your personal role. For example, I have been a salesman most of my life. So whenever I've worked a sales job, as of late, like probably 2-3 years ago, I worked a cold calling job. And one thing I did in order to perfect my script and get really good on the phone was get on ChatGPT's voice mode and just talk to it. I would say, hey, you are an expert salesperson. I want you to role play with me on this particular script. Give me some objections, and then we'll go from there. And then you can just simply do that. And you can also do it in text form as well. So then we talked about a little bit about tone, style, preference. So as I mentioned earlier, like if you're going to write an email or have it communicate in some way on social media, writing a blog post, you could easily say, hey, I want this to be professional. I want this to be persuasive, data-driven, etc. So those are like some of the basic ways that you can begin to use it in the format that I would use in like a business setting specifically. Now, this can go out into other areas of your life as well. You can use this for personal. But that's definitely like some of the basic things that you can begin to do once you are, just getting familiar with the space. So I've covered some of these already, like the art of the instruction for business outcomes. So as we just talked about, you want to be very specific in what you're going to give it. And then you want to set constraints and boundaries. So like that's something that's super important. For example, let's say you are writing an email and you want ChatGPT to help write that email for you, but you do not want it to say certain words, or for example, the infamous M dash that is in ChatGPT that kind of gives it away if you are copy and pasting ChatGPT stuff, if you have that M dash in there. Not every time. Some people use it. It's a real thing. It just didn't make it up, right? But you can specifically tell it, I don't want the M dash. I don't want emojis. I don't want these certain things in the text. I don't want these words. I want it to be, readable for a fourth grade level. So you're setting constraints for it to work within, which improves the quality of results you get. So I guess we can go over here and kind of do like a live example. So I'll pull up my ChatGPT right now, and then I'll switch over the screen so that way you guys can see it. All right, here we go. Close this up. Cool. So I think you guys can all see this screen here, hopefully. Yep, looks like you can. Awesome. Cool. So for example here, as we were just talking about, you want to, give it constraints, boundaries, and everything we just talked about. So something that I typically do, for example, if I'm coming up with an idea for a LinkedIn post I'm making or a video I want to make, first thing I'll do is I'll type in, let's say it's for a TikTok short, right? You are an expert, TikTok growth, and don't mind my spelling here. It's not the greatest. Strategist. I want you to help me create a viral video. The video must be on AI, specifically large language models. That's what LLM stands for, large language models. It must be at a beginner level, at a novice level. The language must be suitable for, I usually like to say like a smart sixth grader. That may sound a little demeaning to your audience, but if you actually look into it, the average person like that you're going to be reaching out to with your marketing, they have on average about a reading comprehension of a fourth to a sixth grader. So I typically like to go on the higher side and just say a smart sixth grader. So it's not going to use like very simple words, but it's going to use language that most people can understand. Because that could be an issue any industry faces, is just using too much jargon, too many big syllable words, and that can deter people away. So, keeping language very simple. If you listen to somebody like Alex Ramosi, he's really good at this. So and he's also the person that I learned that from. So we'll change this here. Also, you don't have to so much worry about correcting what you're spelling in here because the large language model is very good at that, but you can do so. So anyway, the language must be suitable for a smart sixth grader. The goal is to get more followers and convert to my website to upsell, right? Let's say we do that. Now we're going to roll with it here, and then it's going to give me, now it's already basically taking that information in. Now I'm going to tell it, let's go ahead and generate 5 ideas for this. Okay. So now we're going to get some examples here, and then we can have it build out the script. So we can pick whatever example we like. Let's say we'll just go with the first one here. So typically what I'll do is, let's say I like this idea and I really want to make a video on it. It gives me the core idea and everything. I'll copy it and I'll say, I like this one. Before I even copy it in there, paste it in there rather, I'm just going to start saying what I want it to do with this particular section that I've copied and pasted. So I like this one. However, I want the hook to be more punchy. And yeah, we'll just say I want it to be more punchy. Then the body, I want to be more in depth and provide a lot of value that people can use in their everyday life. The call to action must be related to my offer of, I don't know, let's just say I sell AI services to dog businesses, like a dog grooming company, to sell my AI service to a dog grooming company. Then I'll paste that original text in there, and now it's going to tweak it up. So this is where the refinement process comes in. Much like when we first have an idea, you don't necessarily want to go with your first idea. Even if your good idea is the best idea that you generate, what you want to do is refine that idea over time. Think of it like your first draft when you write. It's just your first draft. So whatever ChatGPT gives you at first, or Gemini, whatever large language model you're using, that is your first draft. And then it is on you to refine it, to make it more your voice and to make it better for the audience, because the language it gives isn't always the greatest initially, but once you start sussing out like the bad parts, you can really begin to improve it. So now we have a different hook, and now we have a script here. And then from here, I don't want to spend too much time doing this, but from here, what you can do is begin to refine certain sections. So let's say, cool, I like this hook. This hook is great, but I don't really like this part. So I can just copy this part, and then I would tell it, hey, everything else is great, but I don't like this part. Paste. I want you to revise this like a top 1% script writer for social media. And then it's just going to focus on that specific part. So from there, you can begin to do that with the rest of the script that you build out. And this can be true for marketing. This can be true for doing a sales call, writing sales scripts. I think that this is a really good tool to write sales scripts with, because you can just, like I'm doing here, you can really refine it down to what you want your employees to say, what you want your salespeople to say, or what you want to say, and then just tweak it as time goes on. So that's how I would go through like this refining process and really building out a good output for yourself. Because it's not just going to be as simple as typing in one word and then you're good to go, or typing in one sentence and it's going to know exactly what to do. You have to be clear. You have to be precise when you are talking to these large language models. They require it. It's very hard for them to function otherwise. Now, if we go off to the next slide here, we're going to go over into a little bit more of advanced ways to go prompting. So what we just covered are basically like the very basics, intermediate. Now we're going to dive into something a little more you can begin to do. So right here, we have chain of thought, which is like step-by-step prompting, business problem solving. We're going to go over role playing, which we talked about a little bit, and then persona prompts, which we talked about as well. Then we're going to talk about the difference between zero shot versus multi-shot. Then we're going to go into negative prompts. And so with that, I want to go over some of these examples that I have made for you guys to describe this section specifically. So right here, I'm going to share this screen with you now. We're going to go from ChatGPT to this Google Docs. So right here, this is all an example of chain of thought, step-by-step thinking for the AI or the ChatGPT or large language model that you're using. So example, why aren't my leads converting? So this would be something that you would type into ChatGPT and you would let it know that you are doing a chain of thought and that you want to give it specific instructions that you want it to take down either one by one, or you could fit this all into one prompt and have it answer it all at once. So as we see here, we're going to walk through this. So first, let's list all the possible reasons why leads might not convert. So you're really trying to refine the reasons as to why you're having trouble with this specific problem. Then you want to go into the next step beyond that. So it would be to evaluate those causes, or which causes are most likely based on the data we have. So when it comes to that part, let's say you are going to talk to ChatGPT about why your leads aren't converting, and then you go into step 2 of this chain of thought prompt. You want to actually provide it with the data. So I'll switch over to ChatGPT just in case you guys are not aware of how to do this. The way that you would upload data into ChatGPT, you would go over here to this plus sign, and then you would go to add photos and files, and it can work very well from there. Or you can go from your app, you can connect it to your Google Drive, Microsoft Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, and then you can give it all the information that you have from there if you are comfortable sharing that information with ChatGPT, because I know there are some concerns with data and its security, especially with putting it into these large language models. But that's how you would put in your data. So if we go back here now to the chain of thought prompting that we're doing, based on the data we have, you're going to upload whatever data you already have into that specific chat that you have created with ChatGPT or Gemini, DeepSeek, whatever. Now, from there, you want it to identify what metrics or signals we need to confirm or rule out which one, right? Each one. Then we're going to have it brainstorm 3 solutions for the most likely cause. And then you're going to have it think like a strategist to fix the diagnosis, to fix the funnel leak that you have, right? So you want to always give it a role, give it an objective, and the desired outcome. That's what we're all doing in here, right? And you want to provide it with as much detailed information as you possibly can, because that will increase the quality of your results. You know, I worked for a guy named Brandon Dawson, and he actually had this really good quote, and it was, the quality of your life is dependent upon the quality of your questions. And I think that I think that's very applicable to prompting. The quality of your prompts are going to determine the quality of your results. So that's how I like to think of it when I'm going in and communicating with ChatGPT. I like to really use it as a thinking partner. I want to treat it as if it really understands what I'm doing, because if it understands what I'm doing, and I believe that it understands what I'm doing, it will be able to help me out that much more, as opposed to just using it for an answer. I'm not necessarily looking for an answer. I'm looking for a brainstorming partner. I'm looking for somebody who can help alleviate some work that I have, right? And that can improve it maybe. Maybe I'm not the greatest at writing, but I can input my writing into ChatGPT and then they begin to improve it. So this chain of thought can be applied to any aspect of your life. And everything I'm saying right now, too, in regards to how to use these large language models can, too, be used in every aspect of your life. So here's another example. I just want to give you guys a couple examples of this chain of thought prompting. That way you can kind of really get an understanding of it. So in this example, we do, how do I turn a service into a product? So this is the entire prompt you're going to be giving it, right? So act like a productized service consultant. Once again, you can have it do it one by one. Specifically, I like to do that when I'm talking to it on voice mode. You can do this on voice mode as well. So if you pull out your phone, you download the app, you're talking to it on your phone, you can have it do the same thing, and it will bounce all of these off at once. What I prefer to do when I'm talking to it is go one by one. But if you're going through text and you want to do it all in one fell swoop, just copy and paste this right here, but make sure you put in whatever data is required for it to understand what problem you're trying to solve. Because just because it's a productized specialist or service consultant and it can help you with your, CPG, it's not going to necessarily know what you're selling, where you're selling, who your audience is, what your issues are, what your conversion rate is, etc. And all of those things could be very vital or are very vital to how it will answer. So the more information you can give it, the better. So that is like everything for the chain of thought. Like we can keep going into that a little bit more later if you guys have any questions on that. But those are a few examples that I like to give. We can even go down to the consulting. I made 3 examples here. So once again, this is all the same thing, and there's a commonality between them. It has a role that it's playing. It has a clear objective, and then we already know we tell it the outcome that we want as well. Not necessarily saying, hey, please tell me what I want to hear, because that's also an issue people have with ChatGPT, which can be easily solved by using different models and telling it to be honest and objective with you, not sugarcoating anything. Those 3 terms right there will help you improve your prompting by itself. because ChatGPT specifically will tell you anything you do is a great idea, right? So you'll have to tell it not to do that for you, because it is ultimately designed to be a cheerleader for you. So you have to tell it not to be a cheerleader for you in times when you want real feedback as opposed to ego stroking or something of that nature, right? So now we're going to go over into something that seems scary, seems very technical. It's a bunch of jargon, but it's really simple. It's really simple. So the zero-shot prompting and the few-shot prompting. As you can see the definitions here, so zero-shot prompting is giving AI a task without showing it any examples. It relies on general knowledge and task phrasing. So that's just being very general in your prompting, and it's going to give you very general answers. It's not going to be very precise to what you are doing, and that is a big issue, especially, if you are an executive at a company. You don't want just necessarily general information for what you're going to be doing. You want something that's very specific, and that's where few-shot prompting comes into play. So basically, you are giving it a task plus a few examples to guide the tone, format, or logic. So here I gave a scenario. So we have a product idea generation, which I kind of showed you that live with my TikTok ideas, right? But this is a little more in depth, I would say. So because it's going to give you both zero prompt and few shot. So you'll quickly notice the difference here. So for zero shot, which is not giving it any examples or clear tasks, is just going off of generalization. So right here, the prompt that we would give it for a zero shot would be, give me 5 innovative product ideas for a skincare brand targeting Gen Z consumers who care about sustainability. So the AI output would be something like this right here. And you can see there's a good variety, but the tone, risk level, or market context may vary. So like all of those things are going to be very crucial, especially when you are doing a campaign of any kind. Now, if we're going to go to a few shot prompt, this is where the difference comes. So you could have the same original prompt up here, if you will, give 5 innovative product ideas for a skincare brand targeting Gen Z consumers who care about sustainability. And now you're going to give it some examples. So a cleanser that changes color when it's fully risen. Then we have a night cream that syncs with your sleep data from your smartwatch. And now you're going to have it generate 5 more ideas. And the answers are going to be starkly different, right? It's going to be much more accurate as opposed to doing zero prompting. So that's the big difference between those two. And they both have their time and place, right? Like if you just want some very general knowledge about a city you're going into, maybe you're going on vacation and you just want a brief overview of the city or wherever it may be, right? Like a sports team, something to do with food, cooking, whatever. Those would be maybe a little more appropriate times to use zero-shot prompting. But when you are using it in a business context, you should almost always use few-shot prompting because it's going to give you much better answers. And if it gives you much better answers, it's going to save you time and make you more money and hopefully save you some money at the same time. So then the negative prompts that I have over here on the screen, which would be, I believe I put them down here. And if I didn't, that's okay because I can tell you exactly what they are. Okay, so very simply, we'll go back to the slides here. So negative prompts, it's exactly how it sounds. No emojis like I talked about earlier, no M dashes. I don't want anything with, let's say, I'm a product-based business and I don't want anything to do with like home service companies or something. I don't know, right? Say, this is not for home service companies or whatever. So basically you're just adding more constraints. Negative prompts is just another word for adding constraints that are more specific to what you want to use for, right? So now this is something that I personally do, and this is something that a lot of big companies do as well. And I will say this, prompting seems simple. It's a little more complicated than you might think. And it's also the most valuable skill set. It's the most fundamental skill set anyone can learn right now. You have a lot of startups that have raised tons of money, and their crown jewel, it's really between two things, their crown jewel. It's their prompt what they have for their AI agents, what they have for their systems in place, how they prompt it will determine the quality of that agent. And then the second thing would be evaluating. So that can be just evaluating, not trying to get off topic here, but it could be evaluating your AI automations or your AI agent. But it could also be like what you just saw, the refinement process of your prompts, and then also evaluating over time if you can make those prompts better, if you get better responses. But building out your prompt library will save you a ton of time. So basically what I would deem like a prompt library, or something that would be fitting in a prompt library, let's say you have a Facebook page and you market on your Facebook page. I would then begin to build out a Google Docs where you have your template for specific marketing on Facebook. So however you want to word that, with the role that you give it, the examples you provide it, the data that you feed it, and then the goal that you want for it, and then put into constraints and little things like that, the boundaries that it has to work within. I would make a template of that and store it. So that way, once you go and do a new marketing campaign for a new thing, you can just copy that, paste it in there, and put in the new information that you are including. This will save you a tremendous amount of time. Now, there are tools being developed to kind of handle this for you, but as of right now, this is, to my knowledge, is very manual in that you have to build out these libraries so that way you can save time down the line, right? So it's basically investing in saving time and improving the quality of your workflow through these AIs. It's super important. So I would have a prompt library for every main category of business, right? Whether it be something to do with finance, marketing, sales, operations, whatever you can think of, I would have specific prompts for that. And the other thing that you can do to even save more time on that front would be to create your own custom GPTs, which I will show you really quick. I'm not going to build one here live because that can take a little bit of time, but I will show you what, where to go if you were interested in creating one. So here we have ChatGPT open, and it does cost $20 a month to be able to access this feature. So you have to get the plus version. But basically, what you're going to do is you're going to go down here to GPTs, and then you have create. So then you'll go to create. But all this is right here is basically specific GPTs meant to do a very specific task. So if I go over here to create, there's two ways you can build these out. First way is you can just simply type it out right here, tell it exactly what you want, and it'll build it out. Or you can go on the back end and do it manually, which can sometimes be a lot better, specifically for this portion here, the knowledge. So you would upload files that you want that GPT to work off of. So you would tell it, hey, I want you to be a social media marketer. You're to help me reach more people on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever they may be. And this is the kind of content I am making. I'll need your help generating ideas, scripts, etc. From there, you already gave it the instructions. You can name it, personalize it. You can tweak the instructions over time. That's part of the evaluation process, right? Evaluate what's working, what's not working, and take out what's not working and improve it. So it's a constant iterative process that you have to go through with the AI. It's never a one and done deal. So do not be fooled by these people who tell you everything that you do with AI is a plug and play. You plug it in, you forget about it. That is not the case. The people who are doing real work in the space will tell you 10 out of 10 times, you need to go through this iterative process if you really want to understand AI and really nail it to help your business. So with that, getting back to the knowledge that we're going to add into it. So you would just upload files like we talked about before. If you upload it into just a chat, right, just a regular chat, you can have that chat history and it's going to store it in its memory. But it's going to take you being very specific about what memory you want to draw from to actually get you the answer you're looking for. Whereas in a custom GPT, all of that's going to be localized in one area. And you don't have to necessarily tell it every time, I want you to be a social media marketer. I want you to be a product strategist. I want you to be an operations manager. You don't necessarily have to tell it that every time. You can design the GPT to be that role in that specific case. And then you could actually make it private. So it doesn't even have to be public. So you can make this private and share it with your team, and your team can begin to use this. This would be a good way to introduce other people that work with you or for you how to use GPT, is to have it in a more controlled setting. Because if you're the creator of it, you can refine it, you can train it, etc. And then you can see how other people are using it. I actually interviewed a guy who has a property management company, and he does real estate. And what he told me is they have a GPT for almost everything, a custom GPT that he's made for pretty much every part of his company. And he's trained all of his employees on how to use it, even from something as simple as writing emails. Because I don't know about you guys, but being in business, being in sales, there are sometimes when you get somebody who is angry at you for something, there's some sort of complaint, right? So it can be difficult to respond to those, especially if you're the emotional type, right? Like maybe you want to get a little salty with them, right? But that's not necessarily the best thing to do. What you could do, and this is what he actually does, is he has one of his customer service people use their custom GPT. That's a customer service GPT. They then plug in the email that was sent from a client, especially if it's a difficult conversation to have. And then the GPT knows how to respond properly, and it already is trained on their voices. So that's the other thing. You can really train it to your voice in here too. This is a very customizable thing, and I would highly recommend doing that, especially when you're building out your prompt library. Now, so in addition to a prompt library, I would build out a bunch of GPTs that could be specific for your business and even your personal life. And yeah, so that's pretty much everything I have for you guys at the moment in regards to prompt engineering. I hope that was very helpful. I want to open it up at this time. If anybody has questions, I would love to answer them. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section and I will answer them for you. But yeah, so prompt engineering is very fundamental to everything you will be doing. Before I would even begin diving into automations or creating AI agents, I would learn how to prompt, because the automations, they're all relying on prompting, especially now, because you can plug and play these, or you can plug in these Chrome extensions on NAN or Make and actually prompt your workflows. And then your AI agents are only as good as your prompt. So it's super important you do that and continuously have an iterative process throughout that. So do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm afraid to come off of mute because every time I do, apparently there's an echo. But just a reminder, there's a bit of delay, so the text as they come in, they may be a little delayed.
There we go. Thank you, Luis. This has been very informative and motivating. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that, Scott. I'm glad I can here to be a resource here and a value. And then I also, so there are no questions. I do want to make this offer to you guys. I actually host local workshops where I'm at, and now I want to extend that out to people virtually. So I am starting off with an exclusive AI prompting for business owners. So everything we talked about here, now you have the knowledge and you can go apply it on your own. But there is a learning curve, and everybody knows that you can truncate that learning curve by having somebody who's been there and been through those mistakes help you do so, which is what I want to help you do, is basically build out your prompt library and build you specific GPTs that we had talked about, right? So like for marketing, sales, customer service, we'll train it all to your brand, your voice, your workflows. And then we'll go over how you can begin to delegate these tasks to AI. So we can even begin to trickle out into the automation space, because GPT even has a feature that you can automate some things that we didn't necessarily go over today. But there's a task feature in there that you can begin to automate certain things from ChatGPT, and it'll do for you every time. And so it's going to be a 4-week intensive program that we'll go through, basically taking a select few business owners at this point because I want to make sure that I can help everybody out personally. Right now, I'm opening it up at $97, and that'll lock you in for those 4 weeks. And that's kind of a steal because I have been offering about $100 for a one-on-one coaching call. And that's just a one-on-one coaching call one time. So $97 for 4 weeks. We'll go through and we'll build out this whole system. You'll have access to me throughout those 4 weeks and even beyond those 4 weeks with any questions you have and then any advice you may need. Or I would say if you wanted to branch off into doing actual automations and AI agents, that's something that we can begin to talk about as well. But I think everybody should begin with mastering prompting. It is so important. A lot of information specifically for me that I'm new on this chat GPT. Yeah, no, I totally get it. There is a lot of information and people get confused. I mean, even me, I'm somebody who's in the space every day. I'm consuming this information every day. I make at least 3 to 4 videos on it every day, as well as podcasting other AI experts and doing live streams every night. With that, I still get overwhelmed, guys, because there's tools that are coming out like crazy and it's hard to keep up. But that's why I wanted to make this specific webinar for everyone, because this is where people need to start. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need to know how to build the images yet. You don't need to know how to build the videos yet, build out the workflows. The most important thing that you can do is just learning how to speak to the computer, right? Because prompting, in my opinion, is going to be sort of like the new coding. Not to say that you shouldn't learn how to code. There's some benefits to learning how to code. It'll help you communicate with the computer better. But this is like the new way of communicating. You have quite a few people right now, like one that comes to mind, I believe, Anthropic CEO, which is Claude. If you guys have ever used Claude, that's a large language model. And then the CEO of Stripe and a couple other big CEOs have started to state that the internet, we're entering a new age of internet. Like, I don't want to get too technical for you guys, but the hardware that we're using today is rapidly changing to accommodate to the AI that is being developed right now. So that's something that we need to consider. The computer is going to change drastically over the next year or two. We're already seeing it. OpenAI just acquired Johnny Ive's company. It's a startup, and he was the iPhone designer, and he was with Apple for a long time doing a lot of cool things, the front line for designing. They bought the company for $6.5 billion. I share that with you because that just goes to show we are entering a new age of the internet. You know, like we went from CPUs, now we're using GPUs. That's totally different right there. So these are very fundamental skills that I think every business owner needs to learn, or they do risk, and I'm not being hyperbolic, I'm not trying to be a fearmonger, or they do risk going out of business and being replaced because things are going to move very quickly. So these are very fundamental skills.
Yeah, I did want to share real quick, Luis. I think that's a valid point, the last couple of statements that you made in regards to how important it is for people to identify that you may be behind the curve right now. It's okay. Jump in, start getting your hands wet, roll up your sleeves, figure these things out, because the reality is this is not going away. I've done multiple posts on LinkedIn. It's where I produce a lot of my content, and I'm constantly reminding people that this is not changing, this is not going away. And anybody who's maybe avoided getting into technology in the past, they were able to kind of get away from not having to learn some technical things like digital marketing specifically. They maybe, are able to get by with their business the way that it was designed to be able to grow and scale it without having to do some of the things that other businesses were doing. They are not going to be able to run and hide from this anymore. This is coming at a rate of speed alone, right? To your point, Luis, that you're seeing. Good example. We had this conversation on one of the coaching calls last week with my biz coaches, or earlier this week actually. It was about Hailey Bieber. She was literally able to take a business from scratch and created a $1 billion company in less than 3 years, or approximately 3 years.
It's crazy.
That is on two specific things. One, the leveraging of digital technology, digital marketing more specifically, as well as the influencer economy, which happens to exist today. But with the amount of increasing number of influencers out there that are understanding how to leverage the AI technology to build and scale their businesses, I don't care if you're a plumber, you're going to need to learn how to do this, and that's going to be challenging for some people. It's not impossible, but if you start now, the odds of you being able to adapt and get caught up aren't unreasonable. It will be relatively easier for you if you get started now. The longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. So just felt compelled to share that. That's been as you know, Luis, we've talked about it many times, but that's something I've been very passionate about for the last 2 years, right? The release of ChatGPT kind of hit everybody in the face. Is like, wow, what's this thing, right? Now it's like taking over at a rapid rate.
Mm-hmm. And there's two things I want to respond to that you had mentioned here. First thing is, even if you don't own a business, or maybe at some point you go work for somebody else, that is a common trajectory for some entrepreneurs, is going from being a business owner to working for somebody else. It is so important you learn these skills, guys, because you have companies now saying that we are not hiring any new employees that are not fluent in AI. You have to be fluent in AI. It is imperative. Not just for yourself, but for your children too. Like, this is a skill that you have to pass down generationally. I forgot my second point, but that's okay. That's the most important thing that I would say right now, is that these companies are only going to be looking for people who are fluent in AI. And if you're not, you're going to have a hard time finding a job. I will say, if you go to the blue collar side, doing more so physical labor, you're going to be fine. You know, that there's going to be a long time before we have a robot being able to fix a pipe underneath our sink. It's going to be a long time for that. But if you're doing any kind of white collar work, any kind of business ownership, there's going to be some there's already young kids out there, right, Eric, that are like making, I've seen a young kid that's 16 years old, 17 years old. He's making almost $500,000 a month off of just using Snapchat, TikTok, and YouTube. Just imagine the rate of progression for people getting rich that are young, that are just passing this on, and they will outwork you, just totally blow you out of the water just because they know how to use AI better. That's all. Like, you could be a better business person, but if they know how to use the AI better, you're going to be knocked out. It is just what it is.
Yeah, and I'll just reinforce, as I kind of mentioned, at My Biz Coaches, that's one of the things we make a very conscious effort of, is helping people identify where the opportunities are to introduce the different technology solutions that they should be capitalizing on. And you don't need to know everything about everything. That's why I asked Luis to come on and share this basic stuff of prompting. And prompting's been around for 2.5 years. And people are just learning that there's still more to be learned about it. So to that point, we want to get people exposed to this and provide them the insight and guidance they need to effectively compete in their small businesses, for all our small business owners out there. And if you're in a larger business, right, it affects you just as much, if not more. So it's a really important component for us to help identify. And if you feel like you're stuck, Luis's offer, I think it's a phenomenal offer to get in and literally get in and work side by side and learn how to do this firsthand. So if you feel a little overwhelmed, an investment of $97 is a great deal. Make the investment, get involved. We'll also be offering a series of, this will become an ongoing series of educational information we're going to provide regarding AI. So we're going to start out every other week and then eventually move to every week. So excited to have Luis joining the team and providing this excellent information. He'll probably be jumping on a few of the group coaching calls with us. So for those of you who are involved in that, you'd be looking for that. And then additionally, for those of you newer to My Biz Coaching, not familiar with what we do entirely, strongly encourage you to kind of go check out mybizcoaches.com. We're evolving and growing really rapidly, particularly in the last 90 days, and excited about the growth and the opportunity and bringing people like Luis to the table to help provide that phenomenal insight. And he's continuing to, as he mentioned earlier, bring people to his podcast. They're far advanced from where he's at even, and bring them in so he can continue to educate himself and then share that information with us and with our teams and with our clients. So again, excited about that. Luis, any final comments or thoughts you want to throw out there?
Eric, thank you for letting me come talk to the community, man. I'm really glad that I can be of help. I'm looking at the comments right now, and it appears that there was a lot of value there. So I'm tremendously grateful that I was able to provide value to everyone. And yeah, I would really, I can't emphasize it enough. I think it's a heck of an offer, $97 for 4 weeks. Typically, if somebody comes in off of a call to action that I have on a TikTok video or a YouTube short, it's $100 for a call, and that's 1 hour. So I really want to get a group together that we can really build up and help change and bring your company into the new age.
Outstanding. Well, thanks again, Luis. I really appreciate it, and excited about the things to come in the coming weeks, and we'll continue to communicate that. I apologize again for the early issues of technology. I need to make sure that I get our tech person involved next time. But I did manage to get through it, but we'll make sure that we have a cleaner presentation for you next time. Again, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Hope you guys have a phenomenal day.